Hey guys, Ryan Beliveau here, bringing you another episode from the Hustle and Grind podcast. We have an amazing guest for you today, Pete Mogan, the owner and founder of the Rep Room personal and group training facility here in London, Ontario. We get into a lot of really great subjects about the balance, work-life balance, having a family, having a spouse, as a business partner and the challenges that come with that, the ups and downs of owning a business, creating a real community within your client and customer base, as well leading with education and empowering your clients and customers with education. So really in-depth and great insights here from Pete, and I'm really excited to get into it. I guess we'll start from not necessarily the beginning, but I kind of discovered you or got to know you a few years ago on social media. And I noticed something just different about how you were really portraying your business. And there was a lot of knowledge and a lot of education that you kind of brought forward, which was amazing, because it's like, wow, look at all this knowledge and education that Pete and your wife, who owns the business with you as well, are bringing. And it was engaging, and it was awesome, and it was empowering. And then I also had the fortune of bringing my son to you as well, who at the time, now he's like big into basketball, but he was really trying to work on his mechanics of his running, if you remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And what was really awesome about that, really experiencing you and your business for the first time, was that you really took the time to explain to my son and I, who he was like 11 at the time, really explain things to us. And you focused on us, and you made us feel special, like that we were the only clients. I don't know how you did it, and this is probably one of your superpowers. But I'll let you talk here in a second, but definitely that was just kind of an aha moment for me, getting to know you and your business and that sort of thing. And I want to really get into that about, how do you do that? Like how do you, with your business in particular, how do you create this like real customized experience for so many clients to make it feel like they're the only ones, they're your only clients, you know what I mean? That, and I think you do an exceptional job. And I think that's what's different about you, is that you do a great job with that.
Well, that's very kind of you. So first of all, thank you for that and relaying that experience.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something I consciously think about. I think it's something that comes just intrinsically. One of the things I found about myself is I'm a natural teacher. I've always enjoyed teaching. I mean, previously, before doing the job, I had a role in education. I looked at becoming a teacher. I was a swimming instructor as a kid, and I really I get a big kick out of seeing somebody go from a perspective of not knowing something to begin to learn something and apply something. And to know that I've had some small role in that progression is hugely satisfying for me.
Right. And
so what I've come to learn over the years is everybody kind of learns from a different perspective. I mean, adults learn a little bit different than kids. And I mean, you're going to learn a little bit different than somebody else. Yeah. And so that really becomes where a lot of the customization is. It's something I really, I guess, realized back when I was spending my time in orthopedics. Prior to doing this, I spent 7 years working for a manufacturer. And I had the privilege of standing in operating rooms, working with some of the best surgeons in the country and learning all kinds of great stuff, which really applies fairly well for what I'm doing right now.
Right.
But one thing I learned is there's some components of the surgical procedure that are standard. You do the same on everybody. But then there's also some components that you need to differentiate and make very unique for that individual patient. One of the examples that I use to explain this is, let's just look at an injury of a rotator cuff tear. Okay, a rotator cuff tear in an 18-year-old is the exact same injury as a rotator cuff tear in a 65-year-old. However, those are completely different patients. The surgical portals, the way the surgeon goes in, is the exact same. The way the surgeon puts the tissue back to bone and repairs it is the exact same. The rehab is very different.
So then that's what's really exciting about that is that, and actually, I when I was in with my son, I'm like, how does this guy know so much? And then you started to explain your background, that sort of thing. So what's fascinating about that and what's great is that you have this foundation of knowledge and this background. So you're not just a guy, you're going to get us in and push some weights and try and get stronger. There's a whole strategy and system behind, like you said, different age groups, experiencing different or the same type of injury or getting through something in a different way. So you really do have to customize workout programs based on all these variables. There's so many variables, probably, I would assume.
There are and there isn't.
Yeah.
When you look at the human body only moves in 6 ways.
Yeah.
Right? Our hips go up and down, which we call a squat, or they go back and forth, what we call a hinge.
Nice.
That's the only thing your lower body does.
Yeah.
Your upper body either pushes or it pulls. That's it.
Yeah.
Your core connects your upper to lower and it allows force transmission. And then you move through 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
Whether you're 3 years old or you're 80 years old, you move the exact same way. Not the same range, not the same speed, not the same power, but the fundamental movements don't change.
Yeah.
Right? The way the person learns it, that's going to be individual. Right? And that's where we have to begin to learn. Some people are very visual. Some people are kinesthetic. Some people want to know everything about why we're doing this. Some people just want to know, what do I do?
Yeah.
And a big part of that comes from experience and having worked with thousands of people in all kinds of different contexts over the years from an education teaching perspective is really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned is that, it appears like I have a lot of great knowledge, right? Which I've been very fortunate to have been blessed with all kinds of people in my world who have taught me a lot of really important stuff.
Right.
And the important thing, and this is what I try and explain to my kids, is when knowledge is coming in, that's movement coming in or knowledge coming in.
Yeah.
You only earn income or you get paid on knowledge going out.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And the knowledge coming in is what allows you to produce better knowledge going out.
Nice.
And it can be a very difficult thing because we all want to feel like we're doing something. And when we're sitting there, when we're learning, that's hard.
Yeah.
We're learning a complicated thing and it can feel like, oh, I'm putting effort in and I'm doing things. But all you've been doing is having knowledge come in. And you're not going to get paid on that.
Yeah.
And when you put knowledge out, now you get feedback. You get another part of knowledge in.
Yeah.
And that's how I've found, at least my ability to share knowledge, to educate, to teach has really developed because I try something. I'm like, oh, it doesn't work with that person. Okay, I'll try something else. Oh, great. I found a new technique that works. And so now that expands. And this is one of the big ways that, as it appears, we're able to customize.
Yeah. So you talk about education, and I'm curious about that because I think that as business owners, as entrepreneurs, is like we're always worried about talking about the secret sauce or really giving too much knowledge or there's this thing that I fucking hate that it's with this idea that like, oh, I just want to give them a little bit and then pull them in and then I'll get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's bullshit. Cause it's
100%.
like you can find all of this information on the internet right now. So if you're delivering it away, and I think what you guys do exceptionally well is like, you're like, screw it. We're just going to give as much knowledge and give. And really, ideally what happens is that you gain loyalty, I would assume, and empowering your customers and building trust, I would think.
I agree wholeheartedly. As I like to say to people, there's nothing taught at medical school that you can't Google for free.
Right.
So what are people paying $100,000 a year for? Right?
Yeah.
You're paying for it to be organized and presented in a way that's actually meaningful and that is valid. Right? You can Google, and is that actually good information or not? We don't know.
We don't know.
So I'm all for letting people understand the rationale, the reason behind the recommendation.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to dealing with any kind of health intervention or dealing with the human body, my number one recommendation to people is when a doctor, a trainer, a massage, anybody says, you should do this. The next question should be, okay, help me understand why that for me.
Right. The why.
And
the
that
why
practitioner has to be able to explain that. If they can't, all they're doing is parroting information they heard from somebody else. The really important part about understanding the why is nobody understands this machine better than you.
Yeah.
You've lived with yourself your entire life.
Right.
And so what you need to do is you have to be an active participant in your own healthcare. You have to take that information, take it into the context of everything you know about your body and say, okay, does this make sense for me and everything I know? Now, you also have to accept, I mean, if I talk about doctors, at some point you have to realize the doctor's not going to stand there and teach you medical school from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? But they have to provide at least some rationale and understanding for why they're saying we're going to do this, or we're going to do this, we're going to take this off.
Right.
So then you can bring that in, and then you can ask more intelligent questions with other practitioners or convey or put together a overall encompassing program that works best for you as an individual.
Well, and hearing you say that too, I mean, that can be related in any business. I mean, I take my vehicle to the mechanic, right? If he's just going to say, here's the bill, I'm going to fix your vehicle. Well, explain to me what you're going to do. Explain the why, right? And if I have a mechanic saying to me, this is what we're going to do to your vehicle, i.e. my body in your industry, this is what we're going to do, and this is why, and these are the steps we're going to take. I don't think you need to focus on the oil change. The oil is pretty good, but over here, there's some rattling going on, and we can, so it's like, if I have somebody explaining that to me, well, of course I'm going to trust them. Similarly in my business with marketing, it's very important that we bring that knowledge forward and explain things and be like, hey, we're going to diagnose the problem with your business. Maybe you're not getting enough traffic, or your SEO is off, or you're not discoverable, whatever it is, right? And you build that trust immediately, knowing that like this is a long-term partnership with any client, with any customer, right? And I think that often it's like, hey, let's just get as many customers in as possible, turn them over, convert them. And what I really wanted to ask you about and get into this with you about it, and I've always been so curious about this, is that I think maybe about, I don't know when it was, like maybe however many years it was, there was this, you go to the gym before, you'd have like a membership card, you'd swipe it at the front, and you just go in and lift weights, right? And at some point, this kind of like customized fitness gym approach came to light. And I don't know what it was. It was in the ether. All of a sudden, you started seeing these fitness centers, seeing these gyms similar to yours that were very customized, right? And I just became very like fascinated with that approach of like, okay, we don't need a bazillion customers. We just need a certain amount of loyal customers, and we're going to treat them like gold. Yeah, the price might be a little bit higher than just swiping your card at a gym and doing it yourself, but you're going to get all this knowledge and expertise in that. When did that happen with the industry?
If I had to think about it, and I don't have any special inside knowledge, this is just my opinion.
Anecdotal,
I think one of the biggest influences was actually CrossFit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because what CrossFit did is they did a couple of really good things. Is they changed working out into a sport.
Nice.
So people used to go to the gym to get better at their sport.
Right.
Now they were going to the gym because that was the sport. Right. And one of the biggest challenges when I look at CrossFit, I look at it, there's CrossFit the sport and there's CrossFit the training system. Okay. The training system is based on the sound, universal, fundamental principles of human physiology. Right. And those are universal.
Yep.
And then there's CrossFit the sport. And when CrossFit first started, the people who first started coaching it did it because they loved CrossFit and they loved coaching the sport.
Yeah.
And then people were coming into the gym and some people came in to play a sport, but other people came in because they saw, hey, it's an exercise program.
Yeah.
They didn't realize they were playing a sport.
Right.
You walk onto an NFL field, you're going to look around, you're going to see a bunch of people in really good shape.
Yeah.
And if you say to them, hey, guys, I want to come practice with you twice a week, you're not going to make it to the first practice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're going to play a sport, you'd better be doing all the things that are involved with the sport, all the recovery, all the accessory work, all the nutrition, everything. Sports are at that level, 6-7 day a week commitments.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to play a sport, but only part-time, this is where the downside or the injury rate in CrossFit when it first started came from. And so one of the things they did that was really good is now they took exercise and they made it into a group setting. Right. And now before we used to go to the gym and you'd be individual, maybe you train with a training partner. Now we have 10, 12, 13 people fighting against a common enemy, which is age related or whatever, doing a common thing and supporting and encouraging each other.
Right. So that community and you see it at your studio, at your fitness, you see people of all different walks of life, all shapes, sizes, ages, whatever. And people are, it's incredible to watch, because it's like this big kind of energy. You walk into your studio and you can feel the energy. You feel the energy change, right? And I don't know what that is. I mean, I'm not all into the hokey energy stuff, but you can tangibly feel it in your gym, and you have everybody just motivating each other and supporting each other, and there's no competition. There's no, I used to go to the gym and be self-conscious of like, oh, what's that person think of me, or I better, and in your environment, it's like this like holistic, supportive community. And you talk about community, and I think that you guys have done a great job achieving that. But that's not that's by design.
That's our number one focus. Is the community is the most important thing.
Right.
Yep. The overall purpose of gyms and fitness is for health. Right. Health extension. And when it comes to human beings, I feel that you have to consider physiology and psychology. It's not one or the other. And everybody's going to require a bit of a different blend. Right. And the most important thing about our fitness facility is community. Okay. Jess and I realized about a year ago that we don't own a gym. It looks like a gym. And that's what people think it is. What it really is it's a relationship event company. Right. And by I say relationship, I don't mean romantic relationship. But what I love to ask people, I say, after the age of 20, when did you last make a friend that wasn't work related? Right. Yeah. Okay. And so when you come into my gym, and it's not unique to my gym, it's every gym. You go in, everybody in there has one thing in common. They're all there to exercise and we like to say jokingly, what do we coach? Well, we coach people how to die as slowly as possible, right? That's the definition of health, right? And if we look at human beings, if we're going to talk about coaching health, okay, one of the most important things that I think as a collective society we learned during the COVID epidemic was the importance of human connection, the importance of feeling like you're part of something, the importance of belonging. And that's what we try and facilitate more than anything. And so we want the members to get to know each other. We're very protective about our membership base. This is why we don't offer a free week trial like a lot of places do. Right. The only way we'll allow somebody to try out a class no charge is they have to come with an active member. The thought being, hey, obviously they have a relationship. There's something that they like together. So there's a reasonable chance that they'll fit in well with the community. Yeah, absolutely. Right? And that's the most important part of our place. Yeah. And that's what keeps people there. Yeah. Oh, right? Of course. I mean, you guys have loyal. I know a lot of people that go to your gym and they're so loyal. And it is their community that they've found, right? They may not have found community in other areas, but they come to your gym, and like you said, there's other fitness centers and gyms as well, but they find a certain community. But you did mention Jess, your wife, and I do want to talk about her because she's a very important part of this whole thing. And what I love about seeing Jess on social media is that she's unapologetic about strength in females. Like it's so cool to see, and it's so empowering. And I love how, and I do want to get into this about like owning a business with your spouse and that, because I'm no my wife and I own a business as well, so I understand kind of how that works. But I want to talk about Jess because she brings a different component to the business, very much, and to your content and to the social media game and that sort of thing. So what is it about her that really allows her to be so confident in being like, look, like
I'm a woman, I'm powerful, I can lift weights, I don't give a shit. You know, I'm going to outlift many guys, and I'm cool with that. But also empowering a female that can't lift heavy weights. Like, how do you kind of manage those two things?
So if I look from the overall business perspective, right, and I talk about physiology and psychology, I am definitely skewed towards the physiology side of the business.
Okay, yeah.
She is definitely skewed towards the psychology side of the business.
Nice.
Right? We look at the business and I go, okay, there's 4 walls and it's great.
Yeah.
We've got everything we need.
Right.
She goes, well, the color doesn't look good. This is not coordinated. And that stuff I wouldn't even consider.
Exactly.
But it makes a meaningful impact on the experience and the way people feel about it. I said, we're a relationship event company. The reason we do outside events is because now it allows people to connect outside of the facility. They learn different aspects about the other person as a human being that strengthens that connection.
Yeah.
And that's all her.
Yeah.
Right. She understands that. And she understands the other thing that's really important with what Jess does is she's a big component. She does all our nutrition coaching.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And nutrition is something that I don't think she struggled with, but she's a woman.
Yeah.
Right. And it's very different in terms of the way women are viewed in society. And one of the things that I find most interesting with her clients is people think nutrition coaching that it's about, have 15 almonds and 20 grams of this. And no, it's not. It's more about, I didn't feel very good about myself today and I want to go dive into a bucket of ice cream. How do I manage that?
Right.
All my friends are saying, they're all out drinking. I'm trying not to drink.
Yeah.
How do I deal with that?
Right.
And she's struggled with all that and she's figured out ways. And so she's very relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like you say, she's unapologetic for who she is.
Yeah.
And so she is a very good role model, especially for my daughters.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? She's a woman who's here. This is how I am. And if you like me, great. We're going to get along great. And if you don't, you're trying to get me to change, you can go talk to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she doesn't get wavered. She doesn't get knocked off. She doesn't get pushed around.
Yeah.
She's very strong. And that's what I've learned people want. Is they want to feel strong. And I don't necessarily mean lifting up a heavy barbell.
No.
Strong is feeling confident walking into a room. Strong is feeling good about yourself. Strong is feeling, hey, if people say, let's go play a pickup game, I can do that.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go for a fun run. I can do that. That's feeling strong. We're going to go on a 5K hike and I'm not going to be holding everybody back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's feeling strong.
Yeah.
And she's really good at helping people insightfully feel that way. We were just talking this morning about one of her clients that she was dealing with, and she was asking, how'd your week go? She's like, oh, it didn't go so good, and this, that. And then she goes, well, wait a minute. Let's look at, here's the win here. Look, you did this, and you consume this. And over the course of the conversation, the client's like, yeah, I did do that. Yeah, I did do that. And it's highlighting the things that they're missing are not obvious, but they're wins. And that builds momentum. And that allows them to get to the bigger things that everybody thinks this is all about. Right?
Oh,
We got to get through that.
That's, I love how you talk about that and how you frame that. And I think that, and I mean, not every couple or spouses can be business owners, right? And we talked about this, I think, in our last episode or whatever. It's like, what is better? Is it better to have two business partners with the same mindset or different mindsets where you can kind of like see things differently? And I've had many businesses over the years with similar mindset business partners that didn't work out. I find that kind of having a different mindset going into things and having a partnership is really, really important. Similarly, how you and Jess have that partnership, right? That business partnership.
Very much. I mean, there's some things we absolutely see the exact same thing on, which is important.
Yeah.
But there's also some things that we're completely different on, which is important.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, again, finding that balance. I don't think it's reasonable to sit there and say, oh, you need this much of a blend, or you have to have different opinions, or you have to have the same opinions.
Yeah.
I think what's important is you have to be aware.
Yeah.
You have to be aware, okay, what are we similar on?
Yeah.
Okay, where are we different on? Be aware first. Okay. And then that's going to help inform is this something good that we should be following in? Like if her and I are aligned on the best way to spend money for things.
Yep.
That's probably important because it's really important cash flow in the business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If her and I are completely different on the formats of the workout, well, that's a great discussion because now there's more variety and she's going to see the world through eyes that are going to be similar to some of our target members, whereas I'm going to see the world to the way that some of our other members are target. And so then now we can capture that and then that difference plays off each other.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. So you talk and you guys are very transparent about your story and mental health, and I love that, right? Because, you know, like I said, some gyms you go in, you're just pushing weights and you don't know why you're doing it, you're just trying to get big muscles or whatever, right? There's a very intentional aspect to how you guys, you know, really focus and drive things forward, right? But I do want to talk about that in terms of like, and kind of get into this with the whole, and you and I have had some of these conversations about, as a business owner, right? How important is it to take care of yourself as well? Because so many of us, myself included, you worry about so many other people. You worry about your business. You worry about your kids. I mean, I've got 4 kids. I know you guys have a lot of kids too. Like, how do you balance that? Like, how is that?
Because I'm not sure if you got any suggestions.
Okay, maybe we'll let some of the listeners chime in on that.
In terms of balance, do we balance it? I would say it probably balance is the wrong term. We go through periods of various, you know, sometimes it's really intense. Yeah. Like we have market cycles like any business, right? Yep, exactly. And one of the things is you got to be aware where the market cycle is. One of the things I've learned is when it comes to marketing, right? And I mean, you can speak really intelligently to this. Too many people believe that their marketing is going to influence the market. The market's going to do what the market's going to do.
Right. Good point.
What you need to do is pay attention to the market and understand when the market cycles are up and time your marketing for the market cycle that exists. Yeah. You're not big enough to change the market.
No, which, and in your situation, there is some seasonality in terms of, you know, what you said, you know, you hear the typical, like, you know, January, people will make their New Year's resolutions and then everyone gets a gym membership. And so you're right. Like you need to understand the market and adjust your marketing towards that. Now, I don't want to forget this point because we're talking about balance, and for a lot of listeners, you know, that are coming to us with this podcast, there's a lot of people that may be starting to think about owning a business or starting a business or a startup or a side gig or whatever, right? And they're like, oh my God, I got 2 kids, you know, how am I ever going to do that? Or I want to leave my career, that sort of thing. I think what I'm always very forthright about saying, and with my own experience as a business owner, is that there's this whole thing about work-life balance, right? That people talk about. I think it personally, this is my own personal opinion. I just think that is it's kind of an overused phrase, because I think the reality as business owners and family people and all these things, you get pulled in all these different, there is no work-life balance. Like there's no, the balance is how you can juggle everything. And for people that are listening, thinking, I want to start my business, I'm passionate about, I don't know, you know, making bracelets, or I'm passionate about, you know, building furniture or whatever people's passion is. Like, okay, well, that's great. You're passionate about it, but you know, A, can you monetize it? B, are you willing to make these sacrifices, right? And it just is what it is. I'm sorry, but that's just business. Business has no feelings. You know, like you said, the market's going to do what the market's going to do. Things like COVID are going to come up. You're going to have to pivot a million times. And I'm just curious about, you know, what that balance looks like to you, and you know, how what the reality is about owning a business.
I guess I'll go back to the whole philosophy along my training in terms of why I explain things to people as the reason why. Yeah. So probably one of the biggest influences in terms of when you're having a business for this desire for work-life balance is to be able to spend time with your family, spend time with your spouse, spend time with your kids, right? And that sometimes becomes the trade-off. If you say yes to some business commitments, which are going to drive your business forward, you're probably saying no to a family commitment, time with your kids. And that's a reality. Now, the way that I kind of pair that is I try and teach my kids, and I say, look, I know you want to go to the park tonight, but dad's got to go train this person.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm training this person is because they're going to pay me.
Yeah.
And now when we get that money, now we're going to go and do this fun thing.
Buy your Air Jordans or $300 Air Jordans.
Exactly right. Because one of the stories I go back to is I heard, are you familiar with the football NFL player, John Lynch?
No.
He was a DB, very good, Pro Bowl, amazing.
Yeah.
He was playing, I think it was Tampa Bay.
Okay.
He was playing for Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. And he was going to retire after that, right? Everybody knew that.
Yeah.
On the sidelines was Daryl Johnson, Moose Johnson, who was a fullback for the Cowboys years previous. And him and John were apparently talking before the game. And Moose said to John, he said, "What are you going to do when you retire?" And John said, "I got lots of money. I got kids. I'm just going to be a dad."
Yeah.
And Moose looked at me and said, "You can't do that to your kids. Your kids can't just grow up with money. Yeah. They have to see dad go to work."
Right.
That's really important.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, that's one of the reasons that John became a broadcaster. He didn't need the money.
Yeah.
But he needed his kids to see dads go to work.
Yeah.
This is why we had this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And I try and make that as real as I can for my kids, because one thing that Jess and I have learned, and she learns a lot of this through coaching her clients, is too many people live a life for their kids.
Yeah.
And we want to live the life we want for our kids, not for our kids. We want to demonstrate to them that, hey, sometimes they have to say no to some of the things that other people want. Right. But that ultimately in the long run is going to lead to long-term success. Yeah. I know you want this right now, but this can't happen because I got to do this. Yeah. And when I do this, it's going to allow us to have this thing that you really enjoy. Yeah. So can we make a little bit of hard sacrifice now for a return in the future?
Well, man, what you just said there kind of like struck a chord in me, because it's like saying no, learning how to say no to things, right? And I think that it's the hardest thing. And again, I'm speaking for myself, but I think a lot of new business owners are like, you just want to say yes to everything. And I've been guilty of that, right? And if I look back now, I'm like, that was the worst. I should never have said yes to that, right? And sure. Like, how do you? I love how you said that, because it's like, how do you teach our kids or ourselves or whatever how to be comfortable with saying no to things? And essentially, ironically, that will move you forward instead of getting caught in the weeds with something you said yes in.
It will, but it's also really important to understand that at the beginning, yes, you have to say yes to everything.
That's true.
Because you have to learn what doesn't work.
That's a good point.
Right? And I explain to people, if you draw life on a graph, you got your real high moments and your real low moments, right? If we were to draw a line straight across, we just call that average. Yeah. Right? And then the real high, big amplitude, and then there's low amplitude. And I think for most people, you're going to find that the amplitude, the highs and the lows are very similar. Yeah. Right? Some people live very, very, not very high and not very low. They just kind of oscillate around normal. Yeah. Right? And then there's other people where it's extremes. Right. And the reality is the two reflect off each other. Everybody wants the really high, the good, but in order to get that, you have to go through the low. And that's the problem. I don't think many people are willing to accept the low or go through it. The other part of that statement that I find is really important is understanding that when you're on the high, enjoy it, because it's not going to last.
Yeah, it's like the pendulum swings, exactly. Right? Like, it'll always come back.
When you're on the low, don't get too down. Yeah. Because it's not going to last. Yeah. Yeah. But just accept you got to go through it.
And I guess, that comes with experience, and perhaps, as two seasoned kind of like business owners ourselves, we can provide this knowledge to, I don't know, again, people that might be thinking about business, and let's say you start a business and you hit that first low, ride it out. Right. It's going to happen, and you're going to have to ride it. You're going to have to ride it out. You're not just going to start an Instagram page and be a millionaire overnight, like my kids do think for one weird reason or another. But, it's like the highs, the lows, and you learn from those lows. Ironically, it's cliche, but I mean, you got to go through it.
It takes 30 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Absolutely it does. So, I also want to talk about this, and I know your time's limited, so appreciate you giving us all the time for this interview. But I want to ask you about how you recharge, and I think there's this this kind of notion out there that all entrepreneurs, all business owners need to be extroverted. They need to be the life of the party. They need to be, and I'll speak for myself again, is that like, I'm more introverted now, maybe as I get older too, is that like, I don't want to be this extroverted. And I'm in marketing, so I'm happy to be behind the scenes and push my clients forward. But do you find that, and in your line of work, you're very out there. You're giving out energy. You're having to be the conduit to a lot of this energy. If someone comes in after a long day, and you've got to bring your A game every day, in particular you, because you're in it with your clients. But how do you recharge? Like, do you find that you're more of like an extrovert or an introvert, or maybe both? And like, how do you come down from having to be this high energy guy all the time?
I'm very fortunate from the perspective that I am an extrovert naturally. I feed off people. Nice. And I get energy for that.
Yeah.
Contrasting that, my wife is very introverted.
There you go.
You would never pick that up from social media.
Absolutely
She's
not.
very good at putting it forward and putting on the face and doing what she needs to do to feed our kids, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty motivating.
Yeah.
The way that she recharges, and I don't want to speak for her, but from what I've seen, is she just takes alone time, quiet time. And in the first part of our relationship, that was a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Because it was very counterintuitive to the way I would deal with stuff.
Right.
I want to be around her, and I want to hang out, and I want to be doing things. Whereas sometimes, and for me, if I want somebody to leave me alone, it's because I'm angry at them. I don't want to be around them. And so when she wanted to be alone, I took that as almost, you don't want to be around me? Like, why? What did I do wrong?
But personally, in a little
exactly.
In a way,
and over the years, I've learned from her that, hey, going out and doing that, she's wiped out at the end of the day.
Right.
Whereas I get energy from it. It actually takes energy away from her.
Yeah.
And where she recharges is when she does have alone time without our kids, without me, without the dog, just by herself. Yeah. That drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because my current business partner is very introverted. I'm very extroverted, although I do see myself becoming a little more introverted as I get a bit older. But and I'm kind of he's the brains of the operation, my business partner. I'm the mouth of the operation. That's how we say it, right? And I went earlier on in our business partnership. Again, I used to have a complex about him not answering my texts or my messages late at night, because I would work till 2 a.m. He would shut it down at 5, and I'm like, why aren't you answering me? Little did I know, or did I understand, that he needed to recharge at the end of the day. He needed that time to himself, and I needed to leave him alone. I can't be on him till 2 a.m, just, expecting that, that I kind of, and everyone needs to be like me as a business owner. Right. So, I love that you say that, because, as spouses, but then as business partners, it's equally important, right, to understand that, for sure. So,
very much. And this gets better year over year over year as we try stuff. And I interact with, one of the big benefits that I have, that I'm very fortunate in, that I interact with all kinds of people. Yeah. Like you commented, such a range of experience, ability, ages, backgrounds in my facility. Yeah. And so I learn how to interact with introverts, extroverts, men, women, seniors, kids. And again, I just get development over the years. And that's a big part of it, is putting stuff out. Yeah. Being aware of the feedback that's coming back in, and using that to modify your next turn. It's just constant iteration. Wow. With human relationships.
So, and just kind of lastly, before we finish up, I want to kind of go through this, but, so you played football at Western.
Yes.
Then you had a career, corporately, like you were talking about, in the kind of medical field, that sort of thing. How did the rep room start? What is the background of the rep room getting started, your kind of origin story? And that?
So I think it was 2016. So Jess and I met in 2015. And so it was 2015. We met in 2015. And then in September of 2015, she got a job at GoodLife. Now, at the time, I was working in orthopedics.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And she got a job at GoodLife.
Yeah.
Well, that lasted about 6 weeks.
Okay.
It was a challenge for her. And part of the challenge for her was she was like, you know what? I can do this better without these constraints.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Of working for a big corporation, big organization. Yep.
Correct.
Yep. As is the case of why people leave their corporate job and start their own business. They want to do things differently on their own. Absolutely. I did the same thing. I get it. Yep.
So in March of 2016, we ended up getting a little bit of money and put some equipment in the basement of the condo we were renting at the time. Mm-hmm. It was about 250 square feet. And she was training people just one-on-one. Okay. We got a few clients, and I think she got like 2 or 3 clients. And then she had always bugging me about doing boot camps. She wanted to do boot camps. I'm like, boot camps are stupid. But she finally...
What's a boot camp?
So a boot camp, to my mind, it was a bunch of just random exercises, circuit around, keep your heart rate up. Better than nothing. I don't want to speak negatively about any exercise program.
Yeah.
Okay. And I shouldn't have said that.
But I mean,
it's a different format and not one I was familiar with. But so she finally got me to agree, and I said, okay, sure, I'll support you any way I can. Yeah. And then as she's standing out there coaching, because when she was doing one-on-ones, she's coaching one person, and I think her rate at that time was $40 a session. Yep. But now she's doing a boot camp with 10 people paying $10 a session. Mm. And all of a sudden I clicked over. I'm like, okay, I see how this works.
The economics of it.
So then in 2017, we moved into a larger home, which had a bigger basement. Yeah. And so now she had enough space that she could do an indoor boot camp, because the outdoor boot camp had problems with weather, bugs, the whole nine. Yeah. And so did that for about 4 months. And then the city, apparently it's a fire hazard to have more than 6 people in your basement.
Oh, really?
And then all the neighbors got upset because all these cars would show up and there's no parking on the street.
Right.
So that's at that point, I think it was June 2016 is when we rented our commercial facility. Yeah. Ran in there until October, and then there was an engineer in the firm beside us. And it was, interfering with his work, and well, how are we going to deal with this? And so we just decided to rent the other side. Great ways to make business decisions. Yeah. In hindsight, completely wrong. Okay. But at the time, I didn't know any better.
Yeah, of course not.
And so then expanded, and that's the space we're in now. And then I came on board full time in March of 2020, which turns out was very interesting timing. Yeah. Because that's when the pandemic hit. Exactly. I mean, that was a big challenge. And
holy jeez.
Yeah. I mean, when the pandemic hit, we basically dumped everything we had. Yeah. We didn't know what was going to happen. We just wanted to preserve that. So very fortunately, Jess's parents were very kind and let us live in her parents' basement. We lived there for 4 months in Paris, Ontario. Wow. So here I am, 43 years old, 3 kids living in my in-laws' basement.
Holy shit.
Not the proudest moment in my life. Wow. But again, it demonstrated to my kids that, hey, I don't care how bad your situation is. Yeah. You can get through it.
These are the lows we talk about.
Exactly right. Yeah. And so then we moved back to London in August, and then COVID, dealt with all that. And slowly, and now here's where we're at today.
Wow. Right? So, I mean, what a story, because, people look at you and they see you on social media and they're like, oh, what a great business. What a great life. This sort of, everything looks perfect, but holy shit. Of course. It's never perfect, right? It's just, getting there to that point. And I'm sure your journey has a lot more to go. I feel like, knowing you guys, you're just kind of getting started, and which is crazy because you've been at it for a while, right? So again, I think you said it, like overnight success takes 30 years or something like that. So it's just important to understand that, there's going to be tons of shit that happens to you along this entrepreneurial journey. And it's like, how do you deal with it? Do you throw in the towel or do you get through it? And that's not always especially when kids are involved. Those aren't easy decisions.
It's very difficult. Yeah. I mean, if you're facing a forest fire and all you got is a garden hose, you should probably leave.
Good point. Yeah.
Right?
At some point,
there's pushing through it, but there's also knowing when this is a losing battle. Yeah. And that's really hard.
It is hard, isn't it? Because you do, a lot of times, and I've been down this road with a few of my businesses where I stayed in it way too long, a lot longer than I should have. There's a few instances where I'm like, looking back going that was just my own ignorance, of just not wanting to give up. Yeah. And at some point you do have to. And you say it so well, where the market's going to determine, and if you get into a business and the market just is not sustaining, what your belief is. I heard, I was listening to John Mackey on a podcast the other day. He's the guy that started Whole Foods. And they initially started as a vegan supermarket. Apparently, this was his story. And because he's vegan and it's his strong belief and that sort of thing. The problem is that the market, he said, only, under 1% of people are vegan. So there was no market for it. They made zero money. Mm-hmm. And it was like a misalignment with his own belief versus what the market is willing. And then they started Whole Foods and started selling sugar and all the stuff. And they made tons and tons of money. So, so there is this kind of like paradoxical thing that happens where it's like, I'm passionate about this. This is my belief. I'm going to start this business. But if you're not understanding the market, and if the market can support your passion or business, then I think you need to be aligned in those things.
I agree. And I can remember when you're first get that entrepreneurial itch, you go out and you read about this person who started this and this person who struggled this and this and how they did it. And you begin to think, okay, great. It's really important to remember that all the information you hear is hugely influenced by a survivorship bias. Because the only people who are talking about what they did are the people who are successful. Nobody writes a book about how they failed.
Yeah.
Right? But those stories infinitely outnumber the success stories.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to get caught in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you think, oh yeah, I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
One of the things that has been hugely beneficial to me from a business perspective is my good friend Enzo. Enzo, he's a good buddy of mine I played football with. He owns a private equity firm, and this guy knows how to run a business.
Yeah.
And so what I learned, the biggest single thing I learned from him is business is a unique skill set. You have to be trained by somebody who knows how to run a business. You can't figure it out. Like I said at the start, there is nothing taught at medical school that you can't Google for free.
Yeah.
But if you try and be a doctor using Google, it's not going to end well for you or the patient.
Yeah.
The same thing comes with the business.
I love that.
You need somebody to actually properly coach you on how to do it.
Yeah. Well,
either go to business school or you get a coach.
Well, it's you've done a great job with surrounding yourself with good people. I've met a lot of, and you talk about your financial person, and then there's your wife, but then also there's a lot of other people, you're the people that work for you, and I've met several of them, and you've really kind of created this amazing community, not just with your clients, but this culture within your business, right? And I don't think that happened overnight either. I think that's something you probably have gone through some people that may not have been aligned in your culture. But I think at this point, like, there's a culture of education, knowledge, empowerment, and just, healthy living and mental health first. It's great that you guys are out there in this space, not just saying, hey, pump the weights, come at it from a very intentional mindset. And I think that's what makes you guys different for sure, as far as getting to know you and your business and that sort of thing. So, I just want to thank you for coming on. That was great. As I expected, I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours, but people listening right now, maybe that's a second episode, but really appreciate you coming on, Pete. And maybe next time we'll get Jess in the room too.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
One thing I do want to touch on, if you're okay.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
My coaches don't work for me.
Yep.
They work with me.
Okay.
It sounds subtle and it sounds like semantics.
Yeah.
But it's very, very important differentiator. One of the things I've learned from my good friend is I asked him, I said, what do you teach your kids about money? One time. And he says, I don't teach my kids anything about money. And it shocked me. Like, okay, what do you teach your kids? 70% of his effort is teaching his kids to love themselves. Be proud of who you are. Be confident who you are. Yeah. Okay. 20% of his time is spent teaching his kids how to be nice to other people. Be a good human being. The last 10% is accepting the consequences for their actions. Now, consequences are good and bad. And he's like, I don't care what you do. I just want you to accept the consequences for your actions. Mm-hmm. You work hard today, you go to sleep tonight, you eat well, you're going to be in shape and you're going to be fit. That's a consequence.
Right.
You do the exact opposite, the consequence is going to be opposite. And so that's the way we look at our coaches. That's the way we look at our members. That's the way we look at human relationships. We want to try and get people to love themselves any way we can. Treat each other well.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you do. I'm just here to help predict the future.
Yeah.
You want to go out and drink wine and party? That's great. Have a great time.
Yeah. But there are consequences.
Here's the impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I want people to accept.
Yeah.
That's all I want for my coaches. That's all I want for my members. That's all I want for my kids. And that's all we focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well,
I think that's what brings it all together very well.
I mean, that's a great way to build a culture in any, whether it's a family or an organization. Those are key foundational things. I think that
it's just human relationships, right? That's the key to everything. The only reason that we're successful as a species, I mean, we're the weakest species on the planet by a long shot.
Yeah.
But we know how to work together. One person throwing rocks at a lion, that becomes dinner in an angry lion's stomach. 10 people throwing rocks at a lion, they get to eat.
Oh, there's our quote of the day right there. That's a good one. Yeah.
But that's why we work as humans.
Yeah. That's great. Well, all right. It's been an honor, my friend. And
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is great. It's been extremely informative. And, I hope our listeners got a lot of really great stuff out of that. I'm sure they did for sure. And if you guys are looking to get fit and have a great time and enjoy a great community, check out the rep room for sure. And we'll put the information in the show notes for sure. But thanks again, Pete, I know you're a busy guy and you gotta catch a flight out of here soon. So we appreciate you coming in the studio and giving us your time.
Thanks so much for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Yeah. Bye. What do you think?
Oh, it was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm biased for my own success. So
it
was great.
Another great episode. Thanks for joining us. Please support our podcast. By supporting us, you can go to YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, go to our website, hustleandgrindpod.com. That way you can go and you can apply to be a guest. Listen to us anywhere that you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, all the channels. But we really appreciate your support. Keep listening. We have a lot of great episodes and a lot of great guests ready to go. We're going to keep coming hard at you here and digging into the hustle and grind of what it takes to be an entrepreneur and a business owner.